What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the second episode of the Niche Notable podcast with Nick and Forty. We're very proud to announce that our second guest is Mitchell PEHLKE, a former Ohio State lacrosse player. Mitch made a name for himself not just on the field, but through his viral videos and social media content. With over 80,000 followers on Instagram, over 100K subscribers on YouTube, and almost 120K on TikTok, Mitchell is at the forefront of lacrosse's social media content. Mitch, welcome to the show, man. How's it going?
Big Nick, the Italian. How we doing? I'm excited to be here, man. We've been going back and forth on Instagram DM, and I'm glad you started this up. And like I said off camera, you're gonna look back pivotal year for you and your success. And I see this, already, growing into something that could take a life of its own. And obviously, you're playing college sports yourself right now. I know that background as well as anyone else, man. So I'm excited to dive in with you.
Absolutely. Well, welcome on. Obviously, being a Buckeye, what was it like watching the football team win the national championship a few
It
few
is
weeks ago?
I mean, I was out with some family and friends watching it, and it was super exciting, man. Because I think when we were there, we went to the national championship my sophomore year. It was COVID, and they lost to Alabama, potentially one of the best Alabama teams of all time. And then the following 2 years, I think they didn't make the college football playoff. In my senior year, they did, and they lost to Georgia on that awful kick. And it's cool to see them get back. And obviously, I played lacrosse there, but the football team is, that's the life at the school. And man, I was watching it the next day. I had to cop some national championship merch and still repping it. My buddy Hoagie, who's in a lot of my videos, he actually was at the national championship game, sending me pictures and updates and everything. So such a surreal moment for a guy that is still fresh out, in my opinion. And I look back and a guy like Jack Sawyer that made that unbelievable pick during the Texas game.
Pressure comes. Sawyer knocked it out and picks it up. Jack Sawyer headed down the.
Like, he's been in my video. We filmed a dorm tour with him and Devin Brown and all these guys. It's cool to kind of see them capture a national championship when I have a deeper connection than the regular fan with these players.
Gotcha. So I saw that you made a video with James Hogan and the former punter of Ohio State, Jesse Mirko. He actually ended up
Yes.
transferring to Vanderbilt. Now he's an NFL draft prospect. What was it like
Yep.
interacting with the other athletes on campus?
It was awesome. I mean, I think you as you know, different athletes have different personalities. The football guys are more chilled. The lacrosse guys are more hyper. And I think being out there with Jesse and some of the football guys, it just showed me these guys are serious about making it to the league, where lacrosse is not there yet, and we're trying to get there. But Jesse was great. I mean, the aspect of him just being this guy from Australia, just kicking absolute nukes. You're a kicker yourself at Yale. You could definitely feel these guys are different. My buddy Hoagie, he's a different cat. He's a specialist in the sport of lacrosse. He's a fogo. And I feel the same thing with Jesse and being a punter at Ohio State. He definitely had a little quirks to him, but a great guy, man. That video was legendary. And fun fact about that video was that actually sparked in our heads because Hoagie, for his fifth year, was actually trying to become a kicker at a Division I school. So that was kind of tape for him to be able to use publicly and to be able to rip that and take that and send that to a bunch of coaches. And it never ended up working out because he thought he could get 2 years with playing a different sport plus his COVID year, but he only ended up getting one and then ended up just taking his fifth year to play lacrosse in Manhattan.
I think he's from New Jersey, and he used to work with one of the coaches that I would work with in North Jersey. So it's pretty cool. Small world. All right, so taking it way back, what was the first piece of content that you ever recorded, whether it be lacrosse, outside of lacrosse, first piece of content?
Yeah, so the first piece was a video called PEHLKE and Buck Barber, legendary video. I recommend you guys go out and watch. But it's essentially, I knew starting my content journey, I wanted my first piece of content to be awesome. Because I feel whenever you watch a big time creator or you just see a creator for the first time, the biggest thing is you always go back and you kind of watch what was their first video. So I always knew going back, the first video is important. What is that first video of that creator? And I always knew haircut videos were hilarious. And I remember looking at my boy Buck in class and I was like, yo, can I give you a haircut? And he was like, only if I can give you one. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So met up at my mom's house that weekend. Gave him a terrible haircut, and it kind of went mini viral in my school, and kids saw it. And I'll never forget the feeling of a kid, I had no idea who he was, coming up to me and being like, hey, I watched your video. It made me laugh. I was laughing at it. It kind of made my day. I'll never forget having that feeling of creating something from nothing and having a kid laugh from that thing. And it's the same thing with you, Nick. Like, you creating this podcast, like, this is going to hit a certain target demographic. And a kid's going to reach out and saying this podcast changed his life or inspired him to do X, Y, and Z. And that's the power with social media, man. It's kind of the Colin and Samir talk about it as the ticket to the extraordinaire. Like, all it takes is an email to hit your inbox to say you got a brand deal, or for you to hit someone else's inbox that you didn't think you can get on as a guest, and you got them. And it just compounds on that, man. So that was the first piece of content, but social media is a game where, you just got to keep posting, and that's all it is.
That's awesome. Then what inspires you to create this content? Like, what do you want from your viewers when they watch your videos? What do they want? What do you want them to get out of it?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is, like, I just want you to come to my videos and take something away from it, whether that's you're getting a great laugh, or you're learning something, or you're getting inspired. Like, I feel if you're not creating storylines in my business and you're not having the audience walk away having some sort of feeling, it's not a great video. And I felt that time and time again. I think I've posted 700 total videos, and I would say more than half of that, people don't walk away with a feeling, because that's just me maturing as a creator. So that's the biggest thing is Nick, if you're watching my content, I want you to walk away either smiling, laughing, interested, or like inspired to go chase something in life.
And what was one content creator that you grew up watching that you wanted to be like, inspire you to make your own unique style content?
I actually have this. I can see if I can pivot the camera here. You know who this guy is? Can you see that? The sunglasses?
Yep, those are Casey Neistat's sunglasses.
Casey Neistat, the legend. So
Absolutely.
Casey Neistat. Hold on, let me fix this real quick. Casey Neistat was an absolute legend in my book. A guy that I grew up watching kind of peak YouTube, in my opinion. Not peak, like YouTube's still growing, but 2016, I'm a freshman, sophomore in high school. I'm watching this guy's videos, and I'm like, dude, this is unreal. And it already sparked my interest because I always wanted to create content, but was so afraid of what people were going to say. And it really took like my Italian roots, my Italian mom, to be like, what are you going to do if you take a girl out on a date? Yeah, he has Sopranos in the back. She would always say I was hit the lax rat. She would always be like, you talk about lacrosse 24/7. Like, what are you going to do if you take a girl out on a date, talk to her about lacrosse? And that's something that for some reason always stuck with me. And she really helped me bring out the creative side for content for me. And then my dad was a fantastic lacrosse player, so he brought out my athleticism. But Casey Neistat was the real inspiration for me. He used to wake up every morning. I remember he posted his videos at 8 a.m. He used to watch. And just, his creative process to the videos that he created, like, were so different on YouTube at the time. No one created videos like that. And I just remember just having so much inspiration from him, and didn't know the exact lane I wanted to hit, but at the same time just like wondering, like, damn, how can I get to the Neistat level? And I have these sunglasses, this poster right here, just to kind of always humble me at my roots of how I got into the game, man. But Casey's a legend, and Casey Neistat's a major factor, but also guys like Roman Atwood, BF First, GF Shea Tards. I really love those like home style vlogs, and now it's kind of everything.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest thing from Casey was like going out of your comfort zone. For me, I've always sort of wanted to set up this podcast, not even to post, but just to interview people that like I've grown up watching, or people that I just want to question and learn a little bit more about them. So I feel like going out of your comfort zone, doing the things that they're going to push you, but ultimately you're going to grow from it. So I think Casey's obviously an idol of mine too. All right,
He's a legend.
Who's your dream content collaborator in lacrosse, outside lacrosse?
I feel like the blessing and curse of the sport is it's small. So I feel like from a lacrosse standpoint, like I've kind of filmed, not with everyone, but I feel like to be able to do that is not out of my reach. So I'm going to get out of the genre. I mean, Casey's obviously up there. I think to do a video with him would be a dream. I think, an athlete like LeBron or Tiger would be insane. Or like a legendary funny creator like Danny Duncan, in my opinion. Like, just a unique creator that can kind of bring something different to the table that I could kind of teach Lax, or we could kind of go back and forth on some things. But, I mean, if I could pick ideal, it would be Casey. From an athlete standpoint, I think it would be LeBron, because I just think he actually has a great personality. And then also, too, I would throw in there, I would throw this guy in there, probably like a Mark Cuban. I'm very business savvy, always love learning about that sort of thing, and I feel like to incorporate someone like that in the content would be interesting.
That's awesome. Really cool. So you mentioned you've sort of been at every level of lacrosse, been in the professional realm, filming content there, high school, college. What do you think are the next steps that lacrosse has to take to compete with the big four sports in the U.S.?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is like I mean, they're doing the right things now. Like, don't get me wrong, like they are doing the right things now. I think a lot of it is just going to take time. Like, there's so many people out there that don't even know what the sport is yet. And the fact that it's not a sanctioned sport in all 50 states to me is still crazy. Like the fact that not every high school is playing lacrosse yet is, I mean, I'm in Maryland right now, essentially the mecca of the sport. And it's crazy to think about the fact that the sport is not every state is still like just me thinking about that right there. I'm like, wow. So I think that is one, like we need to get it sanctioned in every state. The Olympics was a huge step in my opinion. Like that is really what's going to excel this thing to the next level. And two, like it's becoming a real thing. Like what the Premier Lacrosse League is doing, paying their athletes, what they can in a way bigger pay than what the MLL was doing. In the same aspect of this is now a real potential goal. When I was growing up, I wanted to be like a college lacrosse player, then try to make it in the NFL or something. Like there was never, I want to be a pro lacrosse player. Now when I film with these kids at my camps, man, their goal is to play in the PLL. Their goal is to make it to the Premier Lacrosse League. And that's something special that I hear. And I remember hearing that firsthand like 2 years ago. And I'm like, it's weird how like this is all shifting. It's all changing of these kids. Like they want to be pro lacrosse players. And it's just interesting hearing it down the road where when I was growing up, you wanted to be a Division I lacrosse player, which is interesting to say. And, it's cool. And I think it's taken the necessary steps. But at the same time, I think we're kind of doing all we can right now. It's just going to take time for the viewers to continue to get engaged with the sport, stay engaged, and pick up the stick because it is a fun game.
Yeah, I feel like the leaders of the PLL, Paul Rabel, Mike Rabel. Mike actually played football at Dartmouth. Cool fun fact. But I saw Paul did an interview with A-Rod. I think it was on Bloomsburg on YouTube, and you could just tell the passion that he has for the league. And I feel like
Yes.
having those guys at the forefront is really going to propel them to give this league a chance.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, I was watching this like earlier this week of Cam Newton saying a heinous take, and I want to get your thoughts on this. He said in 10 or 20 years, I don't know which time period it was, that the WNBA will be bigger than the MLB. And what's your thoughts on a take like that?
I think that's a diabolical take. I mean, I do think there's a ton of room for growth for women's professional sports. I think people like Serena Williams are really taking that extra step. I think she's going to own the Toronto women's basketball team starting in 2026,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
which is pretty cool.
But I don't think it's fair to call out baseball. I mean, baseball is America's game. I mean, call it how
Yeah.
you want, but it's going to be hard to nudge them out. But Cam Newton, that guy he's a lunatic. He put on it on one of his shows. He said, I'll take my MVP any day over winning that Super Bowl, which is just the
That's
worst
terrible. I
thing you
didn't know
could
that.
possibly say.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
can honestly be the worst thing you could say. I don't know though. I mean, obviously being a lax guy, my dad was a lax guy. I never even grew up picking up the baseball bat just because he knew with the kids that me and my brother were, like we had no patience for that. But honestly, like you've seen a tremendous drop in viewership for MLB. I think baseball is one of the slower sports, obviously, and the way people's attention spans are going, it's not a great mix. And honestly, like I don't think it's as diabolical as people would think. I still think baseball will be a bigger sport than women's basketball, but I don't think it'll be as far off as people think. I just feel like obviously with what Caitlin Clark has done, tremendously, grew the sport. But at the same time, like, same thing with women's lacrosse and sixes in the champ series. Like we had Abby Bosco on the show on Monday night, and I was telling her the fact that I'm sitting down eating ice cream watching women's sixes lacrosse. I don't think I would ever predict Mitchell Pelkey saying that, but I said that, and then when Caitlin Clark was playing in the college, like I was watching that, and I haven't watched really WNBA. I did take a peek at the finals with the Liberty, but the same thing. Like I don't think it's gonna be as far off as people think.
yeah. I saw two games. Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese this summer are going to be held in the
Yep.
Chicago Bulls arena, which I think is
Yes.
great for the sport. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
For sure. So, what was it like posting content at Ohio State your first 2 years there? obviously with the upperclassmen on the team, were you ever embarrassed or nervous to post some type of content in the fear of getting reluctance from those guys?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Actually, I don't even know if you know this or a lot of people, but essentially, so freshman year to my senior year of high school, full-time creator, lacrosse player, essentially did whatever I want, no rules. As soon as I got to Ohio State, I'll never forget, it was August 5th, 2019. As soon as I got there, I got an email from compliance essentially saying, like, hey, at this moment where college sports are, there's no NIL, so you either have to pick. You can either continue to play lacrosse and not have your YouTube channel, or you have to essentially quit the team and you can do YouTube as much as you want. And that was essentially it. For the first 2 years, like, we got to a point where I couldn't create, and then I found a way to create, and the only way to create was me in my dorm room not showing anything Ohio State or lacrosse related. Because again, NIL wasn't a thing, and it's crazy to think about now. But essentially back then, they looked at it as you're making money off the Block O, the brand, where it's crazy to think about. So fast forward my freshman and my sophomore year, July 1st of 2021, going into my junior and senior year, NIL opened up, got some brand deals. And the biggest thing was I was able to create freely again. And that was the biggest thing, Nick. I think being able to create freely is one of the biggest blessings you can have in this social media game. But going back to my freshman year, I was never really nervous. I think, like, I'm a big believer in, like, if it's cringy or I don't like it, like, I'm not posting it. So I always kept that as my core beliefs, and I always thought, hey, if I think it's funny, so are my boys. And that was really it. And just kind of kept creating and kept posting, and obviously the rest is history. But I always think, man, if NIL didn't happen, would I still be here today? I truly do think so, but it would have been I would have been in the trenches a lot longer, because not being able to make some coin during college and get the business to where I wanted to go, I knew coming out it would have been tough.
Yeah, it's crazy how much the landscape of college sports has changed over the last couple years. I mean,
Yeah.
guys being able to understand how to market themselves better is great for them, long term too, not just in their college sport. And we see in college football, even college lacrosse, the transfer portal is off the charts. I mean, guys will go
Yes.
in, opportunities might not even be there, and they'll be stuck in the portal forever.
Yeah.
And this is something
100%.
that would never happen, 5, 10 years ago.
It's
I think it's pretty
crazy
good
for
for the
you
sport,
guys
though.
in the Ivy League. You guys can dabble in NIL, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Is there any restrictions being in that conference? Obviously, they're trying to keep it historically, probably academic based. But is there any sort of backlash there?
There's no real restrictions compared to the other conferences, but just being an FCS school, the viewership isn't as high as, some of the bigger schools.
Yeah.
And for that reason, maybe we'll have to go and reach out to the companies to do the partnerships, whereas Arch Manning has got tons of people
Yeah.
just hitting his line all
Sounds
day
great,
long,
yeah.
and
Legend.
it does the work for him. But
Yeah.
that's the only difference. But we're free to go out and do sort of whatever we want, which is great.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah. What was the coolest game day atmosphere that you had playing at Ohio State?
Lacrosse or football?
Lacrosse.
Oof. I mean, I feel like I'll give you one home and one away. I remember playing Maryland on like a Sunday evening, late April, like the weather was just turning. And I remember running out to the song Baba O'Reilly and just having goosebumps running out. You run out on the straight opposite end line, and then you turn on the 50 and you turn coming to the fans. And I was like, this is sick. It was right on the piano, intro. The sun's nice. There was about 7,000 people there all screaming. I'm like, this is college lacrosse. So that is an away one. And I think a home one was our senior night against Maryland. Again, we always had the kind of this internal rivalry against Maryland, because us Ohio State guys, there was a lot of Maryland guys on the Ohio State team. So we had a lot of connections to boys and different things on the team. And our senior year was against Maryland. They made it our senior night because they knew anticipation, it was high, and we could potentially beat them. And essentially, we had our senior night. The game was going back and forth, and they ended up beating us in overtime. And it was crazy to think back on, man. But I just remember having all my family there. And obviously, senior night. I'm a senior. Special moment. Taking pictures with mom and dad. With the rose at the 50-yard line. Got the framed jersey, obviously. And I wish I could go back, man. I think about it all the time, and I'm trying to get back this spring to broadcast some games for Big Ten Network, which is going to be exciting. But at the same time, it's interesting. So I definitely miss it every day. But man, if I could suit up and rock the scarlet and gray again, I definitely would.
Yeah, it's hard to replicate that feeling coming out of the tunnel, listen to that song. It's hard to find that, I guess, outside of your sport. But what are some ways that you get juiced up? You get those goosebumps in other parts of
Ooh,
your
that's a
life.
good question, Nick. I like that. I don't know, man. I think like I definitely don't get the same feeling like pregame, or like the game's coming close. Like we got to show out. I mean, for me, like I just look at like wins in college lacrosse as the same thing as successes in my business. So if like a video goes viral, or I got like a really cool brand opportunity, brand deal, or like the Mitchell Pelkey lacrosse show is going great, or like we're hitting the numbers for the Mitchell Pelkey lacrosse experience camps, like stuff like that is like my little wins throughout the season. And I just think hitting milestones, like I hit 100,000 subscribers in the early January. That's always been a goal since I started in 2016. And it's crazy to look back on. Man, I just lost my train of thought because I just now realized coming up this literally 10 days is going to be me 9 years on YouTube, which is absolutely crazy to think.
Yeah.
But no, man, I think it's just the little wins. Like I want to get to a point where, like Shaq always said, I'll never forget this. When he stopped playing basketball and he retired, he always wanted to chase that game 7 feeling. And that's why he got into being a DJ. Because he said before that bass drop, that game 7 feeling is the same thing. And I haven't found that yet. But I think, maybe competing in the weight room or doing something athletic is kind of that game 7 for me. But I really haven't felt that yet.
Yeah, I feel like for me, growing up as an athlete, I always used to hate those nerves. I hate that butterfly feeling.
Yes.
And then it wasn't until a couple of years ago I started working with a sports psychologist, and he
Yeah.
says like they're going to be there no matter what. So either you're going to use it to your advantage, or it's going to let you crumple. So I feel like
Yeah.
for
No, I mean,
me,
I feel that.
yeah. So I feel like for me, going out for a kick, like my heart is racing. Like there's no tomorrow. And I feel like there's nothing I can do to combat that, but just use it to my advantage. Swing free, swing hard, and just let it rip. That sort of thing.
Dude, I always look at these individual sports. Obviously, football's a team sport, but your position, you're on your own. You're on an island. I just know 100% Mitchell Pelkey could not be in a sport like that. I look at those sports, I'm like, damn, man, I don't know how these guys do it. But, the sports psych thing, I did myself at Ohio State because my freshman year, I had like a fear of missing practice. Like I would wake up at 2 a.m. every morning being like, oh my God, did I miss practice? Check my phone and it's 2 a.m. And I think it's a good resource, man. I don't know about you guys, but at Ohio State and a lot of these big SEC, ACC, Big Ten schools are starting to offer sports psych for free, which is so beneficial. So I took all on that resource, man, and that's something I never look back. And I've been thinking about getting back into it. I'm not that anything's going wrong in my life right now, but the feeling of clarity you feel mentally after leaving therapy is one that's unmatched. And same thing what you feel, Nick, when you leave. And for me now, it's, all the different things that we have going on in this business. It's sometimes I need to take a step back and talk about them, refresh my memory, and kind of have that clarity mindset. And I think it's something I've been looking at, and we'll see if I really partake.
Yeah, we have a performance coach named Sebi Little. He was a graduate of Yale a couple years ago. And I feel like the biggest thing when I talk to him, it's like sometimes I don't even recognize that he's on the other side. I'm sort of just like talking and speaking my thoughts into existence and like speaking my fears through the phone and just like letting them just like flow out of my mind. And I feel like it's
Yes.
really helped me just to like, either write things down or just say it out loud just to release it. Because like when everything
Yeah.
gets too jumbled up in your brain, that's when you get overwhelmed.
I think too, like, having someone that's essentially like unbiased in a conversation. Like for me, I always talk with my family or friends, and it's obviously great, but like you kind of in the back of your mind, like, are they swaying this way or that way because of X, Y, and Z? And to have that person that is not going to tell anyone, that doesn't know anyone that and you can just express your feelings, I think is beneficial, and it's obviously getting more popular in Division One sports because it's needed.
Yeah, for sure. So I saw that your first career goal and points were against the team from up north, Michigan. What was that feeling like, scoring that goal, getting that first assist? Were you just juiced up? Is there any feeling better than that?
Man, there was so fun fact. Freshman year, we played like 6 games, then got cut because of COVID. And I'll never forget the first game of my college career. We played Detroit Mercy. And I was so antsy. Like I didn't even want to score immediately, but I just wanted to like do something. And I remember like getting the ball. Like this is like I'm running in out of the box as a midfielder. I get the ball and I dodge and I pull up from like 12 yards. It's like literally 20 seconds of me stepping on to the field as a Division I lacrosse player. Stepped on, 12 yards out, shoot it, goes right in the goalie stick. Absolute cupcake. They're clearing the other way. And then the rest of the year, I didn't play. And the season got cut. Obviously, COVID. Come back my sophomore year, and I think that was the third game of the year. And I was in the mix. I was in second line. But the biggest thing, I was just so afraid to make a mistake. And, really took those first two games to really kind of get comfortable. And then that third game, I was like, it's go time. Like, I gotta put the PEHLKE on the stat sheet. And I remember my role at Ohio State was, coming as a midi, but, really use my prior attack skills to dodge from X. I'll never forget this guy was giving me inside. And I go lefty, and then I come back righty and dive across the crease. And when I never forget, you dive across the crease, you close your eyes, hit the ground, you don't see the goal go in, you just hear the crowd. And I was like, wow, like the first one's on the board. And then the rest of that game, I had another one and an assist. And my first game having points was 2-1. I'm so thankful for that. And at the same time, man, I look back and what a better way to score on the rival like that. And it's pretty cool to see, to show some praise what the team of North has done from a lacrosse standpoint. Like they've killed it back-to-back Big Ten champs. And it's exciting to see what they've done. But, man, I think about that goal a lot.
Yeah, it's cool to see how the schools like Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan have all built lacrosse-specific stadiums. I feel like that's huge for the sport. When Maryland sometimes plays in their big football stadium, it almost, even though maybe there's 5,000-10,000 there, it just feels like there's nobody there just because of how big the stadium is. But having a lacrosse-specific stadium where there's limited capacity, it just feels like it's more packed and the energy is a little bit higher.
Yes.
You felt that?
100%. Yeah, I mean, I think like different schools have, the pluses and minuses. Like my first years at Ohio State, we played in the shoe. Like it was one of those things that was awesome, historic. Everyone loved playing us there. But as a team that played there every weekend, it's kind of just like, this is cool. It's so big. We get like under 1,000 people. Also, the bleachers are gray. The ball is white, so that was kind of tough to see. I'm a big proponent of lacrosse-only stadiums just because, they know how to design for the amount of fans we're getting. But Maryland, as a football stadium, packing out, I think it's CQ Stadium or Bird Field or whatever it is, like unreal because they get the fans. Like we obviously don't have anything on the upper bowl. That lower bowl, like I said, they get between 7,000 to 10,000 on a nice day. Like that's elite for the sport of lacrosse.
That's pretty cool. So 5 to 10 years down the line, I don't know if you're even thinking that far ahead, but like, do you want to branch your content outside of lacrosse a little bit more? I know you've done some things with maybe Will Levis, a football player, and some other athletes. Do you want to continue doing that?
Man, I don't know, man. I think like with YouTube now, like you have to get to a point where like for you, like the fact that you're starting in a niche, obviously the name flows, but a niche, like I think if you want to grow, you have to start in a niche and continue to branch out. Obviously my niche is lacrosse, and I don't know. I've come to the consensus. I remember at Ohio State, man, I was like, when I graduate, I'm done filming lacrosse. Like I want to branch out into something new. But I've kind of come to the consensus, like being, a bigger creator in a smaller niche isn't as bad as you might think. Where if I were to go to like weightlifting or fitness, like I'm literally a minnow in the ocean trying to work my way up. And I'm not opposed to trying something new, but at the same time, like I don't know if I love something enough to dive into it. If you're doing content about something, you have to love that thing. You're thinking about you're doing it 24/7. I don't know, man. I think I would definitely switch if I love something 100%, but I'm just not there yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What was the most unexpected collaboration that you've ever had thanks to your social media, content?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Experience that you were like, damn, I can't believe I'm doing this right now. Like I would have never thought that this could happen.
I think a cool one, a unique one was I got a brand opportunity about a year and a half ago from Nerf. They were going to fly me and a bunch of other Division I athletes out to test out this new game. I already forgot what it's called. I think it was called like Nerf Pro or something. Fly us all down to IMG to compete in this game called Nerf Pro. And if we got down there and we won, we like won a prize. So we got down there and we competed in this game where essentially we had these skin tight suits on that if we got hit with these guns, they would essentially make our suit light up red, and then we would be out. And it was kind of like last man standing. But at the same time, we had to shoot this basketball in the hoop. It was a crazy thing. It's on my Instagram if you want to check it out. And it was like I got flown down to one of the nicest high schools in America to play with Nerf guns, post deliverables, and if my team wins, I make a lot of money. Like, this is unreal. And this all started from me giving my buddy a terrible haircut. And it's crazy. Like, brand opportunities like that have been insane. I haven't had too many like weird collabs. I mean, obviously ones like, Will Levis, in the NFL is cool to look back on, or like Mubi, who's essentially like, I feel like one of the up and coming faces at Barstool. Different things like that. But obviously when you're a niche creator, like there's not too many opportunities to branch out.
I feel like I watched Surviving Barstool with Mubi. Would you ever want to be a part of like a content, society like Barstool or something like that?
Yeah, I think I would. I think I'm definitely not opposed to that. Obviously, you've kind of seen the rise and fall of like content houses, and I don't know the exact business plan that would, work. And obviously, there hasn't been a successful one yet because everyone that started has failed. But I think to be around like creators, and I think my goal is to, Jesser has this model where like he's the top creator, then guys under him are essentially, I think, paid on a salary to be in his videos, but then to also create on their separate channels. But Jesser essentially has the opportunity to film with these guys at his moment whenever. That would be something I'm interested in because I feel like having a group that is always in your videos is a necessity, and you can kind of build these side characters, kind of like in The Office, Michael Scott's the man, but then you have Dwight, Jim, Pam, and everyone else. And I think that's like the way to go. And even with Sopranos, like you had Tony as the man, then you had Paulie and all these other cats. So that's an aspect where I want to go, but I don't know, man. I think like if I could be under, obviously the aspect of being under the Barstool umbrella gives you a lot of awareness, but then also it definitely caps you with probably the money you can bring in the sponsorship deals. And I have no idea what a contract looks like, but just general thoughts, beginning thoughts. That's kind of what I feel.
That's pretty cool. All right, so just wrapping things up. Final question. This is like my niche to notable question. So basically, if you're an aspiring student athlete that wants to create content, what is one piece of advice that you can give them to go out of their comfort zone and give them the confidence to start creating content?
Just go. You just have to start. This is probably one of the top DMs I get in my inbox. Oh, what camera should I get? I don't know like where to start. I'm afraid. Just start posting. Take a page out of my guy Nick's book and just go. You just got to go just like you did. Like, you don't need the nicest camera. You don't need the nicest idea. You don't even know how to edit. Like, you just have to start creating content. I started making haircut videos. Now I make lacrosse content. Just because what you started doesn't mean you have to do that thing forever. So I just think the biggest thing is just start. Because at the end of the day, if people are laughing at you from the start, they're going to be talking about you in about 5 years when you've made it and be like, oh, I went to high school with that cat. But like, people don't know 5 years ago, you were busting that kid's chops. So like, always remember that. That's something I'll never forget.
Yeah, just going out of your comfort zone. Well, Mitch, thank you very much. You're the man. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. I've been watching your content for like 5-6 years now. So it was really an honor to have you on. I hope you enjoyed your time. And
yeah, absolutely, man. I saw the Italian horn on you, and obviously Tony in the background. So you're repping the culture, man. I think it's exciting, man. Like, I think a person like yourself and more Division I athletes need to be on social, creating brands for themselves. Like, if going to the NFL for you is an attainable goal and you want to hit that, like, kudos to you. But at the same time, like, you need to kind of set that backup plan. And I think building a brand for someone is important. And what are you doing with that brand? Like, I always knew at Ohio State, I was never going to be just that day in the life gear bag guy because, like, okay, when I graduate, who am I? So creating content outside of your niche is super important. Like, for me, it was like, I know I can become an influencer or a social media personality if you take Ohio State away from me. I'll still be in the sport of lacrosse, but what does that look like? And I think, Nick, like, you're hitting that to a T with this podcast, and this is only going to spark different things in your life, man. So I'm proud of you. This is awesome.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate it. All right, brother. You have a good one. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy some good college lacrosse. And
yes, sir.
All right, signing out. Adios.
See you, brother.